Tell me where we are.
We are, I believe, verse 2 of chapter 6. No, verse 3. Verse 3 of chapter 6, sorry.
All right, so one of the things that we read last week that was troublesome for a lot of us, I'm going to read it again, was, and this was a comment actually on verse 1, but God may bring good fortune to the wicked in order to let their punishments accumulate for the future, and he may let the innocent suffer so that they will deserve greater reward later on. This is what God told Moses in response to his question, now you will see. Okay, and there's more to it than that, but we talked about, so it went on and it said, Israel's pain is temporary, it is about to witness a redemption that will inspire its offspring. So it is in our time, and so must we view the phenomena of history. Israel may suffer more and more, but it may well be the lost darkness before the light of redemption. And it may mean as well as it did in Egypt that God is increasing our suffering only to prepare the way for dawn of the Messianic era. We had a lot of trouble, all of us, talking about not so much but the suffering, but the good part, the evil people. So when Ellen and I were studying Parshat Bechukatai last week, there was an interesting comment in Amy's book that I thought kind of made it a little bit more palatable for me. And this is it. It says, material blessings are hardly the primary reward, nor are material deprivations the primary punishment. This is with the Tosafot. Only in the world to come in Gehinnom can there be adequate reward and punishment. But someone who enjoys good health, prosperity, and security finds it much easier to perform the commandments. You'll be right in front of the camera, Judy.
Doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Just move it over here.
What do you want to do?
I'm going to sit right on this end here.
Sit right here. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy. I have your book. I'll give it to you in just a second.
Thank you.
But someone who enjoys good health, prosperity, and security finds it much easier to perform the commandments that will earn him the infinite rewards of the world to come. Therefore, God assures us that the person who serves him with sincerity and joy will be granted all the blessings of this world, so that he can increase his service and earn even greater reward. Conversely, one who rebels will be punished with deprivation in this world, so that it will be difficult for him to perform commandments and earn a share in the world to come. So it's not so...
Sorry.
As opposed to kind of how we talked about it last week, to me this made a little bit more sense in terms of the evildoers. It's that they dig themselves into a hole from which it's very hard for them to get out and start doing the good stuff.
It reminds me of there's a Perush on Paro, why Paro wasn't able to change his mind, why he kept the whole heart in his heart, and that the teaching is that
no, that's the comment that I was.
And we've all probably done this, but when you get stuck, if you tell a lie, you end up having to tell more lies to protect the first lie, right? And so that's what happened with Paro, is that he started by saying no, and he because he kept doing it, there was no way out. He dug himself into a hole from which he could not escape.
Yeah, and he had to keep saying no in order to save face at that.
Right.
When we got last week, it was right at the end, you were trying to decide whether you should go into some big long thing or not. I don't remember what it.
I don't
remember what it was that you were.
Which is probably good for you also.
I mean, you had a reason for wanting to start here. You had some comments.
Yeah,
on 3.
One of your books there.
That was the
Right,
reason.
there was
the Nachmanides.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nachmanides.
Want something to eat? All right.
Okay, so I'll share it with you. Let's see what happens to it. So what do you think? Just turn off this over. Amy, why are you hiding?
That's just right.
You can come closer if you want. Okay. All right, ready? Get comfy.
This is a long one.
What I did not, so the verse is, verse 3, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as El Shaddai, but I did not make myself known to them by the name Adonai.
Right.
So why had I not made myself, so the question is, why had I not made myself known to them by Adonai? Rashi says, because the fulfillment of the promise had not yet been made known, and it had not yet arrived. So Rambam argues with that. The English, what the text really means is that God appeared to the patriarchs as El Shaddai, the name by which God can overcome astrological forces and perform miracles that are great, but do not upset the natural order of things. In famine, he redeemed them from death, in war from the sword. He gave them wealth, honor, and everything good. They were like all the assurances in the Torah with regard to blessings and curses. For reward for observing the commandments and punishment for transgressions both come through miraculous means. For if man was left to his nature or to his astrological fate, his deeds would neither hurt nor help him. But in this world, reward and punishment for everything commanded in the Torah is miraculous, but hidden. A neutral observer would see them as natural events, when in truth they are the man's reward or punishment. That's why the Torah goes on at length about the promises that apply to this world, but does not explain the spiritual promises that apply to the world of souls. But the promises that apply to this world are in fact supernatural. But this is amazing, but the survival of the soul and its cleaving to God are natural.
Will you read that again?
The promises that apply to this world are in fact supernatural, but the survival of the soul and its cleaving to God are natural. Since by rights it should, quote unquote, return to God who bestowed it. I'll say more about this later with God's help. God then tells Moses, I showed myself to the patriarchs in the power by which I manipulate the constellations and help my chosen ones. But by my name, Yud-He-Vav-He, the name by which all that exists has its being, I did not make myself known to them. That is, I did not alter nature and create new things for them. Say therefore to the Israelite people, I am the Lord. Inform them once more of the great name, for by it I will work wonders for them. Let them know that I, the Lord, do all these things. And everything that Ibn Ezra said on this topic is correct. But he is like one who prophesies without realizing what he is saying. The true meaning of this text is what it literally says in context. I appeared to them through the lens of El Shaddai. But I did not make myself known to them, for they did not look through the clear glass to be able to know me like Moses, the one whom the Lord singled out face to face. The patriarchs knew Yud-He-Vav-He, but not through prophecy. So when Abraham spoke with God, he would use the word Lord, or the combination Lord God, but not the tetragrammaton alone.
So we used Adonai Elohim?
Yeah. What it means is that the Shekhinah was revealed to the patriarchs, and there was divine speech with them through a weakened form of God's attribute of justice. And that is how he dealt with them. But he dealt with Moses and was known to him through God's attribute of mercy, which is indicated by God's great name, Yud-He-Vav-He. Therefore, Moses does not use the name El Shaddai in the Torah from this point on, for the Torah was given through God's great name. I, the Lord, am your God. I don't understand half of that.
Me neither. Okay, so
Well, I did.
Fine.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
It's
So
as El Shaddai, he manipulated nature.
God did miracles, but they were in
They
the
were just
context
manipulations
of
of nature, but with Moses, he went against nature.
Right.
For example, the idea of bringing all those wild beasts together in the same place from all over the world as a plague. I mean, there was not the right habitat for a lot of those animals, so according to what Midrash, the habitat came as well. I mean, that's going against nature. That's more than manipulating nature, to me.
How about Noah? Did he do the same thing with Noah?
That's pre-patriarchs. The other thing here, though, that I think is interesting is
But he didn't bring the habitat, he just kept them together in peace, and nobody pooped for 40 years.
Imagine this.
Eventually they didn't eat either.
reward for observing the commandments and punishment for transgressions both come through miraculous means. For if man was left to his nature or to his astrological fate, right? If everything was just
Let it go.
no, if everything was just what's it called? What's the word? Things just happen. Coincidence. If everything is just coincidence, his deeds would neither help nor hurt him, right? That makes sense. Right? But in this world, reward and punishment for everything commanded in the Torah is miraculous but hidden. A neutral observer sees them as natural events, when in truth, they are man's reward or punishment.
Okay. Can I ask you, can you give me an example of punishment?
Like Job?
Death, mourning, illness, loss of a job, financial ruin, zits.
The reason I'm asking is, I go back to it all the time. I took a class with, I did the Maya program, and they had an Orthodox Jew that came on and was talking about why bad things happen. And he gave a list of things like, it's a test. God gives you a test to see how much you can endure. Number 2, because you made a big mistake, okay? And I'm thinking, this is the second time my sister was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Are you saying what could my sister have done so terrible for her to have suffered that way? See, that's my way. I mean, I have a real problem with this being a punishment, and that's why I asked you what kind. Financial ruin, I can understand that. Loss of friends.
Why can you understand that? There's no difference. What's the difference? If a good person ends up in financial ruin, what?
No. I guess I'm talking about extremes, okay? But why, when someone does something, what could be so terrible that one has illness? I guess that's what because many people who have illness or have things happen to them say, what did I do to cause this? Is that connected to what you're talking about?
Is that what they're saying?
See,
There's no good answer to this. Look, the Kabbalistic answer, one Kabbalistic answer, there are many, one Kabbalistic answer is that our souls, the reason we're here at all is to perfect our souls. And you can't do that in one lifetime. You need multiple lifetimes.
okay.
And so in each lifetime, you make mistakes and you have successes and you try and work on perfecting your soul. But your soul and your existence is greater than what you know of yourself. So, the chief Sephardic rabbi of Israel, a number of years ago, said that, right, that
A bombing?
people, the Holocaust survivors,
Huh?
no, people who died in the Holocaust
Okay.
were being punished for their sins, but not sins that they committed in this life, sins that were committed by their souls in a previous life.
He also said that
Donnie?
several teenage girls that were killed in a bomb that went off in a Tel Aviv discotheque on a Friday night, it happened to them because they were not observing Shabbat.
Right. Look, it's very easy to explain the bad things that happen by wanting to believe that God has a plan and a purpose. I do that all the time.
And that's not really a punishment. That's saying it's
Can
not
I-
a punishment.
Can I just, we're making this very personal. And I'm not discounting anything that anybody said, because we all do this from a personal level. But these promises, these whatevers, are they really for the Jewish people as a whole, as opposed to individual? This, again, a comment. The blessings and curses are all hidden miracles. There's no need for the Torah to state that people who engage in spiritual pursuits and serve God faithfully should receive spiritual rewards. It is quite natural that spiritual accomplishment should bring spiritual reward. But it is not natural that the study of Torah and the performance of mitzvot should earn for an entire people good health, prosperity, triumph over enemies, and all the other blessings. So, the Torah's intention is to teach that obedience to God is of such magnitude that it will be rewarded miraculously. So I'm just wondering whether all this stuff is not... I know we personalize it, and there's nothing wrong with that, and the rabbis have obviously come up with this whole concept of the soul that has to be reincarnated until the soul can reach the level it needs to reach. But maybe all of this is the Jewish people. It's kind of like the Holocaust. You know, as terrible as it was, the Jewish people survived. Individuals didn't. And I'm not discounting that. But if I don't know, I'm just throwing it out.
Sure. That's a very viable option. That reward and punishment is not on an individual level, it's on a national level.
Especially now that this is the beginning of our becoming a nation. So
the problem with that, I'm thinking in the Bible now, in the Tanakh, about the times when God punishes. And it's not the whole people. Like when the dude is collecting wood in the wilderness, God kills him. When Nadav and Abihu go into the Holy of Holies, God kills them. When Moshe hits the rock, God ends up killing him. When Miriam speaks about Moshe, she gets leprosy. I mean, I think in the biblical...
But many of those, in fact, all of those, the punishment per se, has to do with people who were setting a bad example for the nation.
Yeah, but he didn't get rid of all of the nation, just one person.
But he's
Well,
getting rid of
250 rebels. But you could say, can you say that about any sin? Anything that you do in public is setting a bad example. I'm not sure.
But these were, but with the exception of the man gathering the wood, all these others were leaders of the people, doing things that needed to be shown to be wrong. Now, I don't remember how soon after we got the commandment to observe Shabbat was this man punished.
Well,
I know there's no time, but
we get remember Shabbat back in Exodus with a whole bunch of other laws that go with it, and then he transgresses in Bamidbar, and then we get observe Shabbat in Devarim.
Okay. Well, Devarim is out of the picture. As far as I'm concerned, it's a review.
It seems clear to me that in the Tanakh, God punishes you if you screw up. It's very clear. I just think it's very clear. Individual, communal, national. If you make a mistake, the punishment is and even in the rabbinic period, that's why they did this whole thing with Mitzorah, Motzi Shem Ra. Right, that when Miriam spoke about when Miriam got leprosy, I just did it. when Miriam got leprosy, the assumption is that she got it because she spoke badly about Moshe. Right? That's not in the text. We made that up. We made that up. So even in the rabbinic period, we imagined that God punishes individuals for what they do. So for hundreds of years, that's what we've believed.
God, I have to say, Rabbi, I have to admit, that's an area.
So I don't actually believe that, but I think you highlighted this before. So I don't believe it's chaos. I don't believe God causes it. I do believe there's a purpose for everything. So I'm maybe in the middle. I believe there's a plan, there's a purpose, there's a reason. I have no idea what the reason is.
Well, I know that none of us probably ever will.
I probably never will. I frankly don't want to know. And if I did, I'd probably hate it. But that's beside the point. So I'm with you. It doesn't sit comfortably with me either.
Yeah.
Right.
That's.
Look, do I believe that Liat's dead, that she was being punished for something? No, of course not.
Okay.
Do I believe that it was part of a plan? Absolutely. And does that bring me comfort? Absolutely.
It does.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If it was senseless, that's terrible. Absolutely. It was part of a plan. I have no idea what it was. I don't have to like it, but it was. It just, and
Do you feel that when you say that, the way you said it, I don't care, that's how I believe, that's what faith is all about, yes? In some ways?
yeah, probably. The analogy that I've used, and forgive me if I've used this before, is that I'm like a kid. We're on a family trip, and I'm sitting. When I was a kid, we had a station wagon, and the back seat faced the back.
Oh, yeah.
It was turned, right? And so I used to love sitting in the back. And so I'm on a family vacation. In life, I am a kid sitting in that back seat on a family vacation, and God is driving the car, right? And I know where we're going. We're going to Disneyland. We're going wherever. I don't know I don't know what roads they're taking. I don't know if they need to stop for gas. I have no idea if we're going to have a flat tire. I don't know if we're going to get hit by a truck. In fact, I don't care. I just want to look out the window and make funny faces at the car behind me. I just want to count the trees on the way by. I don't want to know. Like, if my parents sat me down and said, "Okay, we're going to get on 95. We'll be on 95 for." I don't care. I'm a kid sitting in the back making funny faces. That's how I feel about life. I am a kid sitting in the back seat of God's car,
just letting him
and I trust that God is going to get me where I need to go. I have no idea how I'm going to get there. I don't know if it's going to be slow or easy, and every once in a while I do cry out, "Are we there yet?" Because, every once in a while I have a yearning, or I get antsy, but ultimately I'm very happy making funny faces out the back window of the car.
And you can do that now.
Oh yeah.
You don't.
I don't what?
Well, maybe you think you do.
What don't I do? I have no idea what I do.
Are we supposed to believe that when we do something purposely, when we make up our mind, we're going to do something because such and such, I'm going to go get a job, I'm going to support my children, I'm going to choose this job over that job because it lets me spend more time with my kids, it gives me more money. You're making conscious decisions
Yes.
about your life.
Yes.
But you're saying that you don't believe that they're really your decisions.
Oh no, they are my decisions. It's what Dina brought up last time. It's what Dina brought up yesterday. It's all about perception. My perception is that I am absolutely making those decisions. I have control over my life.
But you believe...
From God's perspective, God knows exactly.
But what you're saying is that from your perspective, you are making those decisions.
Right.
But your faith tells you...
They're already made for me.
That they're already made for you. That no matter what decision you make, it's the right decision because that's what God made. That's what God wanted you to do.
Exactly.
No, that's not what I read last week.
What he's saying.
What I read last week was that God's watching. God knows what the ultimate destination is, but He's not.
God's making sure that right.
But He's not interfering in the path that you take to.
So I agree that God is not interfering, but you're right. There is a difference, I think, between my faith. So Right. What you read last time was that God controls things on a macro level.
Okay, doesn't micromanage.
Right. That God makes sure we get to the right place. I actually think that God does micromanage, but I think that it doesn't matter because my experience of life is that I'm the one who micromanages. And it's my experience of life that matters.
See, if God micromanages, that means that, but our perception is that we're doing the micromanaging.
Correct.
If that is so.
And that's what Ramban says here, right? In this world, hold on, a neutral observer would see them as natural events, when in truth they are the man's reward or punishment. I would change reward or punishment for God's plan.
If that's so, and we're not really doing the micromanaging.
Right. No, we are, though.
We think we are.
No, we are.
But God is doing the micromanaging.
And we are.
God is making us do the micromanaging.
No, God's not making us do anything. No. You are choosing to make these choices.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. It is very real. Your free will is real in your experience of the world.
In my experience.
But that's all that matters. How can you ever experience it any other way?
Well, I can't.
So who
I
cares?
can't. Well, if we say that God gives us free will, then just because we believe we have free will, if we don't actually, then that's not true.
Judy, let me read it again. I actually scanned it from the book, and I'm now carrying it with me. One can imagine people walking through a valley with an observer perched at the top of a mountain overlooking the valley below. The observer sees where the people are headed, knows when they will turn back into an obstructed trail, knows which route will lead them to the valley's end. But the people in the valley, choosing their route without knowing what lies ahead, experience free will. All the possible paths through the valley exist, and the observer above sees where each of them lead. But this does not mean that the people in the valley do not choose their paths. Their ignorance of the eventualities ahead is the source of their free will.
Their ignorance? Read the last sentence.
Their ignorance of the eventualities ahead is the source of their free will.
Ignorance is bliss.
No, see,
Ignorance
I don't
is
see
free
that.
will.
I don't see that as the same thing, because there is actually, and as they have these two paths in the valley, one's coming to a dead end. Is that what it is?
There are many.
Okay.
There are many paths.
One's coming to a dead end. One's going all the way through the end of the valley.
Some of them will have detours. Some of them will force people to come back.
Right. Okay. So they can actually choose, because they don't know which is which. They can choose one of the wrong paths.
That's correct.
They can choose one of the wrong paths.
Right. Free will.
And we do.
And
It's not will in that case. That's just a guess.
That's what
no,
free
it's
will is.
but they don't. You don't.
It's like when you go through. It's like when you're trying to go through a maze.
Right, but you choose which
But
direction you want to go away.
you make
Right.
a choice.
That's
Right.
free will.
I mean, you're not flipping a coin. There's some logical reasoning in your head as to why you choose a particular path in life.
Not in life.
Well,
maybe.
this is just a metaphor for life.
For life. Okay. Life. Okay.
So,
but you
so
don't.
for your job analogy, you may have a choice of, do you want to work for the startup that's getting stock options and that, or do you want a more working for like a cubicle in some blue chip company?
Yeah.
You take the startup, it goes out of business in 3 years, and then you have to backtrack, find another job.
And what I would say is that yes, we make that choice, and
God wanted us to make that choice.
Not only did God want us to, but God, from God's perspective, put us on that
led
path
us to that
because
choice.
there was a reason for us to be in that moment.
Right.
At that
What we
time.
learned from that startup maybe is what was going to make us
Right.
president
What you just
of
read
the company
is
that we're going to
still a
next.
little random for me. And my personal faith is that there's nothing random in the world. Everything happens for a reason. We don't have to like it. We don't have to understand it. But just because we don't understand something does not mean it's not true.
Okay. I don't want to get into a Holocaust talk
We went to the Holocaust, huh?
Well,
But
it can go on forever.
well, we don't have to get into it because the answer is I don't know. I have no idea why the hell that was part of the plan. I don't like it. It's disgusting.
But you think it was
It's
part
terrible.
of
Yes.
Okay. Maybe God let that happen to show how strong the Jewish people were.
No, don't even ask the
You don't
question
even
why.
want. You don't even want to
Don't
guess.
even ask the question why.
You don't even want to guess.
But why? No, it's
So
not.
because God couldn't.
It's
God
none
have
of my
done it?
business. It's not my plan.
I
It's God's
cannot
plan.
imagine. But then again, we're not
You're not
supposed
God.
to. We're not supposed to be.
You can't imagine. There's so we think that we just see everything. We have all the answers. We are like a nothing on the back of a nothing compared to God. God has such a broader perspective than us. That we should actually understand the plan behind the world is ridiculously pompous of us.
Yeah, but Rabbi, forgive me, but when one is in pain or suffering or going through something, I mean, the answer, the why, if it could be answered, maybe that would take away some of the.
No, I disagree. I disagree 100%. I don't. There is never an answer to the question of why do people suffer that brings healing. Never. I just don't think so. And any answer that you give to when someone says, "Why is this happening to me?" Any answer you give will fall flat. I think.
No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you. But on the other hand, if I can tell you, rabbis come in and someone who's very sick says, why did God forget me? Or why am I, what did I do that was so terrible? And the rabbi can't say anything, but
That's
it's
because-
God's plan.
No, you don't
That
say that.
doesn't-
God forbid you don't say that.
Well, some say, we shouldn't ask.
There-
You've never heard that?
That's a
We
stupid
shouldn't
answer. But that's a
I-
stupid answer.
Well, what's a better answer?
There's no
The answer
answer.
is, I don't know.
No.
And that's a hot,
You know what- you know what the
still
answer is?
not a good answer.
Here's the answer.
I know, but that doesn't always do it, though, Rabbi.
But there's nothing to do. The answer is, I'm choking on a carrot.
Oh my God.
The answer is that's exactly the right question to be asking. Scream it. Scream at God. This is not fair. Tell God how angry you are. That's the answer. That's exactly the right question. Let's go into the sanctuary. Let's open the ark. Let's cry out and scream that to God because this is not fair. What's happening to you is not fair. That's the answer. Not let's make it all better by calling it something. We're trying to intellectualize an emotion. So when someone says, "Why is this happening to me?" they're not looking for an answer. They're looking for a release. They're looking to scream at someone, to cry out.
And the only person you can really yell at is God.
And you know what? God can take it. Right? You know that reading in the right? Bless me or curse me, says God, and I'll know that you love me. Well, you can curse God all the time. Like God, that's a sign of love. You don't scream at God unless you love God. You don't scream at people you don't care about. You walk away and you say,
One of the problems, I think, with an answer, Ellen, would be that if the answer doesn't resonate with you, it could end up bringing you more pain and no relief.
So that's in When Bad Things Happen to Good People. In the chapter 7 talks about, this is entitled God Can Do Something. God can't do everything, but God can do some things, or something that's entitled something like that. And it's all, he starts the chapter, Kushner starts the chapter with the story about a woman came to him and said, "Why is this happening to me?" And he, I think in the story, he talks about how he gave a really terrible answer. And then what he does is he actually goes through and he lists, what are all the possible answers I could have given, right? And then he says, none of these are, all of these answers lead me to either there is no God, God's not listening, so God doesn't care about me, I think there were four possibilities actually. Either there's no God, God doesn't care about me, or God isn't listening. Somebody else prayed harder for the opposite. Hey, Dr. Baker.
Oh, you're home early.
I had a funeral to attend, so.
Oh,
I
I'm
came
sorry.
back, so it's, you know,
My goodness.
and, so I just came in to say hello, and I'm going back.
Hi.
Hi. Have a good
Here.
afternoon.
I really enjoyed not enjoyed.
The
The letter
Appreciate
was
your
very
email.
well written.
Yeah.
So this was jointly, so.
Good
Have a
move.
good day.
Very good move.
So I think it was, either God doesn't exist, God isn't listening or doesn't care. Somebody else prayed harder for the opposite of what I was praying for, or it was a punishment. I think those are, I'm probably messing it up, but he came up with like four possible answers that are all terrible. And he said that none of them lead you to feel comforted by God. Like none of them, no answer leads you to feel comforted by God. And so the answer is, let's go cry together. Let's go scream together. Let's go whatever.
I think it is a panic. I was just crying the last time you said that. Now she's crying. We have the same everything that just happened.
Right.
Me too. I don't know why I'm crying because I agree with you. Or I don't know why I'm crying because there is no answer.
Right.
I'm not sure.
I think the tears are the answer.
But I think both of those things are true at the same time. You agree with him, and there is no answer. Because there is no answer that can make you feel better.
So there is an answer. There is an answer. It's not for us to know.
But only God knows the
Right.
answer.
It's not for us to know.
You know what? That's a lot of faith to have to have.
It is a lot of, I was just going to say exactly that. And that's a huge leap of faith. You're absolutely right. It's a huge leap of faith. And I think for the religious, it is comforting. I think the idea that there is order in the world, that it's not all chaos, is actually very comforting for some people. And I'm sure that for others, it's incredibly frustrating that there's an answer, but I can't know it. You know? But I just want to, I do think that we have definitely veered away from what the traditional commentators suggest, because they are talking about reward and punishment, and that's not what I'm talking about.
But we don't like that. We don't want to believe that.
Right.
But obviously they did.
So let me ask you a question. So if we don't want to believe this, so why do you think they did want to believe it?
I think they needed an answer.
What was their incentive for coming up with this idea?
Maybe they didn't have enough. Maybe they didn't have enough faith
Mhm.
to just say, "We can't know." Maybe they felt that they had to have a reason, or they couldn't buy it. Maybe.
Don't forget, it
Right.
just became the beginning. They're just beginning
Beginning to
as
be
a
a people.
as a people, as a nation.
Right. Maybe
So
their
maybe
faith
it's a
hadn't.
way of order, some kind of
Mhm.
making.
Right. Their faith hadn't grown yet as much as ours has.
Right.
If it has.
So what's interesting is that actually the whole idea of divine reward and punishment is really not a biblical idea. It is in broad strokes, but the idea that if you do a bad thing, that you're actually going to be punished in this world. Sorry, I take it back. The idea that if you do something bad, that you might that the wicked may be rewarded and the wicked and the righteous may be punished, but their real reward and punishment comes in the world to come. That idea is actually a rabbinic idea. It's not a biblical idea, and it came after the destruction of the temple. Right after the destruction of the temple, when the Jews were literally standing out of Jerusalem saying, "Oh my God, what just happened? What the hell do I do now?" Ironically, it's the feeling at my school right now. There are a bunch of people dazed walking through the hallway saying, "Oh my God, what do I do now?" Right? There's just total, utter destruction and shaking you to the core. And the rabbis had to come up with some sort of explanation. And so the explanation they came up with is, don't worry, it's okay. I know things stink now, but in the world to come, it's going to be awesome. Right? That's where that whole idea came from, of the focus on the world to come.
Wouldn't it have made them feel better if instead of saying, don't worry, in the world to come it's going to be better, if they said, don't worry, God has a plan for us. God will take care of us.
Well, they essentially were saying that, but it might not happen. You might not feel that being taken care of in this world. It might go with the next world.
I might feel better to believe it, though.
And
even if it wasn't so.
And on top of that, what you said before about, or maybe it wasn't you, forgive me, that your punishments in this life may actually have to be increased so that your reward in the next life can be better. Was that you or was that Rashi?
That was last week.
I sometimes mix you up with Rashi, so much. Right? So this suffering that you're going through,
I think it was a compliment.
This traumatic destruction that you've experienced of your temple, this is a good thing. This is great. Because the fact that you're being punished so much means that
in the next life you'll be rewarded even more.
You're going to have 70 virgins or whatever. You're going to, whatever it is. So that was a direct response to that tragedy.
I just had this horrible thought that was the destruction of the temple the Holocaust in that time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Or vice versa, was the Holocaust in our time the destruction
of the temple? What are the readings? What are the readings that we do on Tisha B'Av? Which remember the destruction of the temple. So many of them focus on the Holocaust. Right? Because we can't relate to the temple. We can't relate to the Holocaust. But I think you're right. I think that more than just relating, it's because the temple was the Holocaust of that time. I agree 100%.
Wow. Does that mean that sometime?
Even more than that, the Holocaust threatened the Jewish people. The temple's destruction threatened Judaism, period. The idea of Judaism was destroyed.
Because it revolved around the temple.
Right. Now, I'm not suggesting one is worse than the other. I think, there's Jewish people, Judaism, but they're just different.
Would that seem to indicate that once we all forget about the Holocaust generations from now, there's going to have to be another something?
No, because we're going to work so hard to bring the Messianic era that it's not going to happen.
I don't think there needs. Are you suggesting that we needed a Holocaust to wake us up? No, I don't think that.
Then why did we need it? Then why did we need another way? We don't know because only God knows. Right.
Actually, do you believe?
It all comes back to that.
Do you believe even back in the times of the destruction of the temple and the Holocaust? Because I always felt this way, that God is always talking to us, and the point is, were we listening? So maybe in the time of, because I've read stories where people were warned, get out while you can, and
right.
And that perhaps that's God in His infinite way trying to get people to save themselves, etc.
It's like Noah's Ark, right?
Yeah,
How long did he? What was it? 120 years or something?
Something like that.
That he built the Ark.
Oh, the whole joke about the guy whose house is the flood
Right.
rise.
Right. Yeah, maybe.
I sent you a helicopter. I sent you a helicopter.
Yeah.
And, I can't help but think about the Israeli army. Before they bombed Gaza, they dropped leaflets.
That's right.
Saying, get out.
That's right.
We're going to drop a bomb on you. Get out.
Right. We don't want to kill you.
Which is insane. I mean, let's just sit with that for a moment.
There's a big ad. I don't know if anybody watches the Jewish network on TV. It's a very interesting station. But anyhow,
JLTV?
Yeah, and they had this great big ad from Tzahal, from the Israeli army, saying we give them 15 or 20 minutes or whatever, 15 hours, whatever it is, notice that we are going to bomb suspected terrorists or whatever. They give us 15 seconds before they throw out their bombs in.
Right. It's the most ridiculous tactical move you could possibly make, and yet we do it. So maybe
Which says that we care about people, but we need to
doesn't do us a damn bit of good.
strengthen our nation.
Doesn't do us any good in the national stage. But.
Nope. Nobody seems to care.
Oh, next Wednesday I can't be here.
Me neither.
Oh, well that's convenient. And I got. Oh no, wait! I'm in the wrong month. Hold on. Wait. No, next Wednesday I can't be here. The Wednesday after that, Shavuot. Okay, but the night before we have really good learning, and then we'll be back on after that.
We're gonna have really good learning that afternoon too,
What afternoon?
that Wednesday.
We are
What are we doing that Wednesday?
that morning.
The rabbi will talk.
Oh, well, wait a minute.
No,
Which night am I doing this for the
especially
night?
Jamie's there.
Monday.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Shavuot, isn't Shavuot Wednesday and Thursday?
Yes.
Wednesday. Oh my God. Tuesday.
And I did get you, I got you 2 people to help and 3 people to set up.
Whoa, that's fantastic because I may not be in any shape.
2 people to shop and 3 people to set up.
Wow, who are we? Who we got?
Cheryl Oak, no, put
No,
your
I
hand
hope
down.
not. Why?
Put your hand
I
down, I didn't
volunteered.
get there yet. Cheryl Oaken and Janice Halpern will shop. And you'll have to give them the list, and Rabbi David Massey and I will set up,
Okay.
Trey and,
All right. Well, I mean, I very well made.
and that's fine, but,
Yeah.
Just
in
like
case.
Jeremy says to you, okay, Mom, sit down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I may be absolutely.
And that's
but-
fine,
Jeremy
Judy.
coming in?
No.
No, but, when
No.
she does stuff.
When Jeremy,
I know.
when he was here on, not this Passover so much, but last Passover, I was feeling so awful. I just really was not well. And everybody was still there. I still had 19 people for dinner and everything. And Jeremy said, you sit in a chair and tell us what to do. Which was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
But every time I got out of the chair, he pushed me back in the chair. And I don't know how many of you have told this story, but I still needed to make the Seder plate, fruit tray, table needed to be set, And I said, you know what? I'm going to go lie down. This was about, I don't know, maybe 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm going to go lie down for half an hour. I said, and then when I get up, we'll do it. I lay down. I did fall asleep. And I woke up about 2 hours later, 2.5 hours later maybe. And I found the Seder plate made, the entire table set. They had dug everything, all the Passover stuff for the Seder and everything that I didn't even know if anybody else knew where they were. They had found it. They had it all done. They had cut up the fruit for the fruit tray. It was in the refrigerator. So things happen. And now if they ever want to have Passover Seder at their own homes, they'll know how to do it. And I'll know that they know how to do it. So, I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. I was quite sure that it couldn't be done without me.
Are we all?
Well,
I'm quite sure that a lot of things can be done
How
without.
many years have I been the only one doing the Passover
People
Seder?
people will say, oh, if the rabbi's not here, but then I get sick on a Shabbos, and guess what?
We do fine.
Everything happens.
But you still gotta be worrying at home. Oh yeah, I hope everything's going all right at the temple.
I have to tell you something,
Uh,
Judy.
I'm sorry.
I have to tell you something.
If I actually
When I'm
stay
not
home-
here, I don't even think about what's
If
going on
I
at
stay
the
home, if I'm sick enough to stay home, I'm not thinking about Chill. No disrespect.
You know what? If I don't feel well enough to come in and set up, when I wasn't here for Shavuot last year, I forget why. By the way, I don't know. When I wasn't here,
No, you weren't well. I
oh,
think you weren't
when I
well.
wasn't here, I was thinking about it the whole time because nobody had ever done it like in the last 15 years.
How will they ever know how to put the crackers and cheese out?
Well, they know.
All right.
Actually, it used to be a bigger deal than it is now. Because
Because it used to go all the way
we
through
used
the
to go
night.
all the way through the breakfast.
So,
We went through the
That was
night.
20 years ago, though.
Yeah, it was
Is it really?
And
Is it
yes,
funny?
that was
well,
before
he's
my
been
time.
there.
and guess who was running it
My
then?
16th year.
Guess who was running it then?
Rabbi Hamlet, you.
I mean, we had 3 o'clock sessions. 3 o'clock in the
But wait,
morning, I
but-
was teaching people how to make
blintzes.
blintzes.
That's right. And Ellen was teaching sex.
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 I was.
every year.
Yeah, I was teaching sex this year.
No.
Every year I ask Ellen to teach, even if it's not sex, just because I feel like
We're doing something else.
The speaker
the whole
is
night's
a
gonna
very
be the
important
whole night-
speaker. This is a very important
The
speaker.
whole night's gonna be very good. The whole night's gonna be very good.
What are we doing after that? What are we doing after the speaker?
Saving Judaism.
Okay. Who is saying? Who is doing that?
Ellen is Saving Judaism.
Uh-huh.
A number of people. I've got some other people.
Great.
For their recipes. For
Okay.
what we need.
All right.
And then I get to give you mine at the end.
Uh-huh. To whoever's left there.
To whoever's left. We always have a few. We always have, I'd say, at least 10 people left at midnight.
I remember your first school year. We sat in a circle. It was 12 o'clock, 5 to 12, and you talked about something about this tradition. There's something from Midrash that says that the heavens open up and
Do
they
you remember this? I don't remember this. All right, go ahead.
do. Because it made a real
So
impression
the
on me.
heavens open up.
And you told me it wasn't true.
And then we were all there. I remember it.
Oh, they were all at Sinai. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We were all
And this was the
excited.
time to talk
Yeah,
to
yeah,
God.
yeah, yeah.
That's what you said.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah. You know,
It was
when I
great.
tell you something, it meant a lot.
That
You know,
was very
I was there.
No, we're going to
You
do that
talk about
in Israel. One of the things that we do is we go out into the desert and we talk about why the Torah was given in the desert, and we have a moment like that. It's very cool. Yeah. We have a Sinai moment in the desert.
Yeah. That was one of the most interesting things, and nobody had ever told me before that we were all there at Sinai. Nobody, the first time you ever talked about that, I remember being amazed. I remember you stood there and you said, "You were there. I remember seeing you there." Do you remember doing this?
Especially,
I remember you doing it.
you've caught my shtick.
Yes, I remember seeing
Why,
you.
you
there.
were at
You were standing in the back.
Yeah,
You were standing
in a red sweater.
Yeah, it was so funny, but it was so inspiring and obviously so memorable.
That's funny. And what I tell kids is they say, I don't remember being there. And I say, really, do you remember when you were born? Because I'm pretty sure you were there. But you don't remember your birth.
I want you to know that
Just because you don't remember something.
after you did that, I did it a zillion times